Okay, thank you everyone. Just coming back from executive session. We were in executive session for the purposes of discussing pending litigation, Sindoni versus Skaneateles Central School District. Take a motion to exit executive session.
Second.
First by Carrie, second by Danielle. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We are now out of executive session. Pledge of allegiance. Tom, do you want to lead us, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, quorum, we are all present and accounted for. You'll notice Eric Knuth is not here this evening, very good reason. And with his permission, he had a very serious injury to his knee that required substantial surgery. He is doing okay. He will heal well, but he is in a full cast and he will be out for most of this week, but I was excited to get back, and apologies for him not being here. But as we can all understand, that's a heck of a reason. And we'll go on to a special presentation this evening. We have a little more, I don't know, John, if you want to give maybe a opening remarks.
Of course.
We're very excited about it.
I would love to. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having myself and some of our State Street people here presenting tonight. So every fall, the Syracuse Post-Standard puts out this writing essay contest based on local author Bruce Cole. And this year, how it was prefaced was that Mr. Cole started off a short story, and it was up to the young writers to fill in the blank here and finish the story. So there was over 400 participants or entries into the contest, and our very own fourth grader, Luke Moore, was the winner for the 4th and 5th grade age division. And so Mr. O'Connor, one of our wonderful teachers at State Street, is going to introduce Luke on behalf of all of us. So Mr. O'Connor.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Lawrence. The podium here. Yeah, so this is a contest that I've done in years past. I've had some honorable mention winners before, but this is our first time. I was rubbed into Mr. Benjamin as well that I beat him to the win on this one. So we're really excited for Luke. I was out walking my dogs down the street, and I think I got a call or an email from Dad that just said that he won. So it was a great day for me and a fantastic day for Luke. So the story is about a boy and his, I think his grandpa that discovered this haunted house, and they go in there and they just find this cube, and inside the cube is a human head. And he's now cursed, and he has to kind of help this head figure out what's going to go on. So, Luke, you want to come up and finish the story for us? Right up there. Can you see it?
The head spoke. If you leave, you will go back to 1809 when this house was made. I thought it was my grandpa's joke and walked away from the head. When I left, I started to get a headache. Then, from what I remembered, I fell to the ground. I woke up 4 hours later. When I woke, I heard something loud. I recognized it from the music box that we tested in the mansion. It was a mix of country and jazz. I opened my eyes and saw beautiful white walls. It reminded me of the painting that we saw in the Monroe mansion. But that was from 1809. It can't be! I thought, it's impossible, unless the head was real. It's probably just a nightmare, I thought. I slammed my head against the wall, hoping I would wake up. But I didn't. The head was real. Suddenly, a voice out of nowhere said, "You must find the body the head belonged to before it was cut off. You must find the person before the next full moon. 2 days remain, or this head will be cut off, and it will also not be buried, and you will be stuck in 1809 forever. If you can find him, you will have to warn him about what will happen on the night of the full moon, and he has a chance to escape. If he stays in is Theodore St. Frankenshorts. I will give you this picture so you can identify him if you see him. When you walk through the door in front of you, you will be at a party. He is not attending this party, so don't ask anybody if their name is Theodore St. Frankenshorts. Walk through the door to the right, and there will be a grand hall. Keep walking straight, and you eventually come to another door, and that is the exit. Walk through that door, and get a ride into town on a horse and buggy. Pay the man these gold coins. Just then, a picture and some gold coins dropped down from the ceiling and fell on my head. Ouch! I yelled. The voice kept talking. Blah, blah, blah. I had tuned him out and was looking at the picture and coins. Then, he started to say something important, so I listened again. Then he said, these are Theodore's favorite places to hang out. The theater, the pond, and the general store. So make sure you check these places for him when you reach the town. He also sits by the river, but that's only when he's sad. I said goodbye and started to follow his instructions. I hitched a horse and buggy and paid him 2 gold coins. And I was on my way to town. It took me only 5 minutes because my horse was lightning fast. When I finally got there, I gave the driver a tip and started making my way to the theater. When I got there, the theater was closed. Oh, shucks, I said. This is not going to be as easy as I thought. I hustled over to the general store and I went in because it's open all day, every day. There was a sign that said that is how I knew. I went inside and showed all the employees the picture. I found out he worked there, but they said he took the day off. So I decided to go to the pond for a last stop, I told. All I found at the pond was a fisherman. I showed him the photograph, and he said that Theodore had stopped by earlier and he could tell that he was down about something. It was getting dark and I was getting tired. I had no place to stay, but the fisherman was open to letting me stay at his house for the night. I thanked him by handing him a gold coin. Supper was a big salmon. I asked him where he caught it, and he said at the river. At that moment, I remembered the voice said, when he is sad, he sits by the river. I asked him if he could give me a ride to the river, and he said, sure, thanks, I said, and we went to sleep and got up at about 5:27 a.m. I was so tired, but he said it was a long ride. I asked him, how long? And he said, just about 9 hours. Yikes, it's gonna be a long one, I said. I was right. Just when I finally felt like my head was going to explode with horse hoof sounds, he said the remarkable words, we're here. I was so excited I almost jumped in the river. He showed me the path. I walked down the path for 2 hours until I found a small plant. And sure enough, there he was, Theodore St. Frankenshorts. I told him what was going to happen to him tonight, and surprisingly, he believed me. He let me come with him to his house. He was sad because his dog got taken away by a mean man named Ricky Flaxer, who raided people's houses and stole their pets. That night, when we made it to his house, he cooked supper and he allowed me to sleep there. When I woke up the next morning, I was back in exactly where I fainted in the mansion. I told my grandpa the story and he said, you are probably hallucinating from all the dust. I told him no, but he refused to listen. We cleaned out the mansion and I went to the dresser and the wooden box was not there, but in its place was a thank you note. It said, January 5th, 1809. Thank you very much. The night that you left, a man with a sword was spotted on a horse in the town, on the side of the river in the clearing. I figured that that was the exact man that would have hurt me, but thanks to you, he never found me. I was safe in my house. Sincerely, Theodore St. Frankie George. P.S. Where did you go? That night I slept with satisfaction and a giant smile on my face. I can't wait to help my grandfather with his next estate sale.
That was remarkable. I mean, obviously we know why you won. Well done, Luke. That's great. Thank you for sharing it with us as well.
And Luke, I just want to say, a lot of people get up and either speak from here or speak from up there, and it's really intimidating, and you have no problem. So you are a great writer and an equally great public speaker, so great job. Great job.
Great job.
Amazing.
Wonderful. Okay, moving on. D, special presentation from Turner Construction.
Yes, I'll just introduce them.
Okay, great.
So tonight we have Chris Bray and Mary Jackson from Turner Construction. They're construction managers on our Project 2021, as well as will be construction managers on Project 23-24 as well. So they're just going to highlight the report that you guys have. It's also on board docs, highlight some things, answer some questions, and just give you a good update on construction.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you for having us. I gotta say, it's a tough act to follow. I'll do my best. So again, thank you for having us. Just want to highlight, a few things on the monthly update, and then touch on a couple of topics that I'm sure everyone's excited to talk about. So we've had a good fall with productivity with the project. A lot's happening in the middle school gym. We've got wall tile going in, terrazzo floors finishing up. On the first floor, we have epoxy flooring going in the locker room, team room area, coaches' offices, teachers' offices coming together. Basketball hoops are in, divider curtains in. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to flip through the pictures. It's really starting to take shape. And we're looking forward to the gym floor installation starting next week. Some other things, we're still working on punch lists, wrapping up a few things in the high school auditorium. We have wrapped up the Phase 3 boiler project over at Waterman. Those boilers are performing very well. It was a very quick and efficient project. And then Phase 4 renovation work, the high school commons canopy. There have been a few bumps in the road with that. We were able to get the first structural deck pour completed last week. We're going to be doing the waterproofing layer, which gets sandwiched between another layer of concrete and pouring that last slab next Monday. So we'll start to get that wrapped up, get some railings on that, and open that patio back up for use. So that's moving along. And then high school restrooms, we're making progress there. Walls are framed. We're working on moving an existing electrical panel, and that'll allow us to get the walls sheetrocked, get tile on, and get those buttoned up. So a lot of progress happening there. So I did want to touch on the middle school gym. Obviously, there's some disappointment there. We share it as well with the timeline, that pushing through the fall, and we want to get you in there. We know you're excited to use that space. We're excited to wrap it up and get it to you. And then the other topic we wanted to touch on, I don't want to skip too far ahead. So with the middle school gym right now, we're forecasting a turnover occupancy date of February 4th. As recently as last week, we were made aware of a manufacturing hold-up with the wood flooring. We had anticipated and forecasted the date yesterday to have the flooring here and allow install. Unfortunately, that manufacturing plant is based in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they have a high COVID rate coupled with a low vaccination
So they've been losing roughly 10 to 14 workers a week with quarantine or other things. So we've had a conversation with the Northeast Regional Manager, and they're working on expediting that order to get it here next week. Any questions on the middle school gym before I move on?
Do you think that the February 4th date is going to be the last date? I don't even know how to ask the question.
Yeah.
Like, is this it for
Right.
real this time?
Yeah.
And I know this is out of your control. I mean, this
Yep.
is happening well beyond this district. It's happening in
Yeah, I mean-
Do you think this is
I do. I do. Yeah, as I stand here, I do believe in that date. We've had a number of impediments that have come up, through the course of that. A lot of it is dealt with material deliveries. We've had some glass that, the ribbon that goes around the top of it, that was really sharp now, that came out of Germany, that was delayed getting here, and that cost us some time this summer. Recently with the wood, and then over the summer with manpower, just the market that's saturated with work, and then a labor force that, it's hard to find people to fill those roles at times. So, yes, to answer your question, yeah, will there be some things that have to get buttoned up that don't impact you occupying it? Sure. But that'll be completed at your convenience, off hours,
Yeah, we just have found that normally you ask the question, it's coming, it's ordered, we've secured it. And now it's, we've got to go all the way to the source. In this case, Aaron drove all the way to the actual manufacturer to ask, and then, to find out that's a real issue. Coupled with the fact that even once they produce it, that getting it here has been a challenge as well. The trucking has been a challenge. And so some of that stuff, we're all a bit weary of hearing it. Unfortunately, it's been a challenging, very challenging couple, probably 18 months with procurement of materials. And so we certainly, but we just have found that we've got to have greater diligence in digging into and getting right to the source, because even then when you do it, it still has been changing. So we appreciate your patience with it. I think that the silver lining is it's going to be, it's going to be a very nice product when we're done with it, and we serve well with it for a while. But again, appreciate the patience on that. I know that it's been a long time coming.
So change orders, my experience has been that change orders are typically one of the things that generally tend to, lend itself to project scope creep and budget creep and excesses and all that kind of fun stuff. Do we think, and we have to do this either, but do you think we're done with change orders, significant change orders? Think we've got the project scoped, we've got the things in train that we ultimately going to be able to handle in February?
You want to answer, Jane?
Because you have a nice change order metrics here, see how it's running, so.
Right, yeah. I believe we do have the change orders wrapped up. We have had an opportunity to take on additional work through the project due to competitive bids and, having that's what's led into, phase 3, that boiler project, phase 4. So we have had a number of changes, but I believe we're starting to get to the end of that and just starting to work through what we have left on the books.
Well, I would just add to the methodology of it. Throughout the course of the project, we're constantly evaluating what's out there, and as soon as we know about something, whether it's in our control or out of our control, because there's two different changes. Can be something that we look at and we say, hey, look, given the chance, we prefer to, enhance this or do this a little bit differently for the betterment of the job, which is great. And then there's the things that are existing conditions. In either case, as soon as we become aware of it, we identify a value associated with that, include an encumbrance, and then we sit with Connor on a regular basis to reconcile that. And so we're constantly have our finger. We always want everyone to be in the position that if everything came true right now, what would that cost be? And make sure that we reconcile and we have contingency. The good news is we've done very well with the contingency on this. We're well within our contingency. But in terms of surprises, no, I think we're other changes that potentially the idea is that you want to maximize the dollars that you came this far and a long process to get here. And if you have the opportunity to enhance it more, and we can do that with a specific scope that would fit the criteria, meaning we're not going to get pulled into long lead items, then sure, we're gonna evaluate that. And if we can do a little more, then yes, we'll continue to do that. Where it makes sense. Does that answer your question?
It does, it's just that you've done a lot of, put a lot of effort in, I know how these projects typically do. It'd be nice to put a nice bow on it, at some point in time, you gotta draw the line and say, like, hey, you gotta
You
wrap
do.
this up.
Yeah.
Because we have another project coming down the pipe, and let's figure it out from there, so, from an optics, from a general, how people feel about what you see, it is important to get there.
Yeah, you need to finish.
And these are just things that, we do have control over. You mentioned logistics, you mentioned labor, you mentioned, COVID, and who knows what else is coming on the pipe. Those you don't have any control on, so.
Yeah, there's always an X factor to the stuff, but I agree with you. It's nice you need to celebrate the success.
Yeah, you guys are gonna love it. You guys are gonna feel well. You're gonna put it up on your website and you're gonna say, wow, this is what we did. Let's move on to the next one, right?
Yep, start over. Well, it's what we enjoy in the industry, is to be able to, it's what got us, most of us into it, is that tangible aspect of being able to see the product. So,
Excellent, thank you.
Connor, on the boiler side of things, are we eligible for rebates on that, like the last one? So that's all getting taken care of?
Yep, they just, they had to go through a submittal process, and they have to be running for a certain amount of time to.
Oh, I get it.
Yep,
Okay,
and pass inspections and all that, and we've already done that, so.
perfect.
There will be rebates.
Thank you.
Yep.
With the grandstand, is that going to be poured, I'm assuming, in the spring?
We're still evaluating that. I did want to touch on that a little bit, but I guess we can jump into it now. I know Connor's given some updates with the progress that's been made, or I guess that has or has not been made visibly there. I guess dating back to the summer, there was concern that we wanted to make sure that the walls had structural integrity, and that the money that we were putting into that was going to be worthwhile down the road. And so we looked at, or the design team provided some adjusted details and kind of changed the scope there based on some analysis that was done after the initial demo was completed. And so, into the fall, into October, early November, the contracting team was pricing that. They had some questions related to that. And then once that pricing came in, we realized that was going to be cost prohibitive, and that prompted another look at it from the engineering team to determine, do the walls need to come out, or are they structurally sound, and can they stay? And so the answer to that was, yes, they are structurally sound. They can stay, but they do need some kind of restoration work to make sure that they have that longevity 30, 40 years down the road.
So what walls are you referring to?
The perimeter walls of the grandstand. So we took out the horizontal, the riser slab where you would sit, and the concern was the four walls that make up the perimeter of that. So through the years, they had shown, signs of cracking and things, and so there was concern that how damaging has that cracking been. And so I guess recently, I don't know if anybody's been up there, in the last couple of weeks, we had a contractor come in. They completed a cleaning process that removed all of the paint and coatings that were on that and exposed the bare concrete, and it's actually looks better without any of the paint on it than it did, for years. So Ryan Biggs, the engineering firm that is doing the structural analysis, they have looked at it. They're very confident in the lifespan of those walls, and they're working on finalizing a kind of a prescribed method to treat any of the cracking that is a little bit more substantial than just surface cracking. And then We had a meeting recently talking about the aesthetic of how that is going to get finished out. And they're looking at some stain products that they've used in the past to kind of give it a natural concrete look after the structural repairs are completed.
So not my area of expertise by any means, and it could be cost, but kind of like when you're redoing a house and you open the wall, why not do the electrical at the same time? Why not do those 4 walls if we're tearing the whole thing apart? And this may have been a discussion, it may be cost, it may be they don't need it, but it just seems to me like there is cracking.
It was definitely a discussion. I think it was brought up. The initial plan to go in there was to leave them. I'm saying leave the perimeter of the wall and remove that. There was concern raised about the integrity of those. And so we looked at them and we came up with this alternate design, not the reaction, but the timeline of it was, all right, let's take a harder look at it. I think that was a request, right?
The last thing we wanted to do was replace these grandstands without looking at the integrity of these walls, and then 5 years later,
Right,
having to
that's my
tear
point.
these down,
Yeah.
these walls down, and then ruining the slabs that we just poured.
Right.
So that was the biggest concern, and we wanted to take another look, because Ron Moore, who's our groundskeeper, who's done all the patching, and
Yeah,
he brought up concerns, so.
yeah. Like I said, I don't know anything, but it's not, it doesn't look the healthiest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we engaged in that to say, look, we don't want to go putting good money into that, right, so to speak.
Right,
So we took an evaluation of that. They said, all right, well, we could cut the walls down and replace them. Let's entertain that. Let's see what that costs. So we did that. We got an alternate design from the structural engineer. Unfortunate part about that was it hit right in the middle of summer, which was a tough time to get contractors' attention in terms of pricing stuff, but nonetheless, we did get that pricing. We found out that pricing was going to be to cut those walls down and replace them was going to be in the ballpark of around $200,000 to do that. We said, okay, we backed up again for a second and said, all right, is that prudent? And asked the engineer to look at that again and say, really, what is the service life of this wall and how long could what's the longevity of this? They did that at our request, went and looked at it again. So look, structurally, the walls are there. Cosmetically, we think that there's opportunity to improve that. One of the things we'd like to do to confirm that is let's get the paint off. So we brought in a company to strip the paint off so the engineer could get a solid look at it. They went back, restated it, said, look, the walls won't be here for the next 50 years. Cosmetically, we can make some improvements to that. That would be significantly less than the $200,000 it would be to replace them.
right.
We said, okay, so the compromise, or the best course of action now is leave them and come up with a surface treatment, as Aaron spoke to cosmetically and to keep the water out of them so that we ensure that they'll be there for a longer period of time. The unfortunate consequence to that evaluation, which was a good, I believe was a solid and had value to evaluate it, is time, right? We lost some time. So we now have a plan to move forward what we're going to do. The question will be is, Dan, to go back to your initial question,
Right.
if the weather will cooperate with us a little bit, we'd like to endeavor to continue to do that so that we get them done. We get 3 feet of snow, in January, that obviously has an adverse impact on our ability to continue that. So we will continue efforts to get there. Will it be the spring before we get there? Likely, depending on what Mother Nature does to us on that. But I think that everyone involved should feel good about the fact that, like I said, we did do our due diligence and evaluate that to see what's the best course of action. The optical side of it is we've had that torn out since July.
Right. And I think that's, it helps for people to hear this, because I've gotten a ton of questions on
Sure.
this, because it's just been sitting there.
Yeah, the
And
optics
it went
are.
all through, right, exactly, so just getting this information.
So I would tell you that I think everyone on the team feels good about taking the time to do the evaluation. The consequence is time, and that's what it is. But, to go out and spend money on something that
Right.
we didn't really.
Soccer field ones look good, so,
Yeah, they did. They came
Yeah.
out well.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
yeah.
I hate to have this issue where you pour it now and you tent it, and then you get 3 feet of snow, and then everything we've just done is and the heat in the bottom, so.
Yeah.
But you don't know what, I mean, it's gonna be 60 Saturday supposedly, but you can't pour and get that done in one day and get it set, there's no way
Well, you got
to do it, so.
It's, yeah, it's, well, we're gonna kind of evaluate it. The good thing about it is that, the nature of that is we have to pour it in sections, so that, and then the sections that you pour become the form for the next.
Right.
So it is an opportunity there for us to take pieces of the puzzle until we get there. And if we get stopped, we get stopped. But, you know, we can do that, which is great, as opposed to one large.
That's one on the thing.
Yeah,
You got different types of concrete, so you can handle different weathers in it, right?
I'm sorry?
You got different types of concrete you can use and pour and KSI and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah, the concrete additives, and we have means to heat, and we have that stuff. You know, the snow is definitely a factor. If we were to get 3 feet of snow out there,
That never happens here, does it?
I was gonna say, that was.
Must have been 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Must have been 7 years ago.
Binghamton got that notoriety last year, not us, right? That storm, so.
It always snows the first 2 weeks of lacrosse season, so
Yeah.
forget March, but not before that.
Let me just ask you guys this real quick. No, you know, those are the grandstands, right? The whole lot of people who host all the events and all that sort of jazz. The civil or structural engineers who took a look and pretty much cleared it as being good for another 50 years, are they willing to certify that? Are they willing to give you some sort of key stamp or something that says, hey, you know, we've core drilled it and we're okay?
I think they'd be happy to put their findings in writing if they haven't already, kind of already know. The principal of the firm was here in this room, sitting with us at a meeting here back on November 15th.
As a resident too, so I have some skin in the game for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna strongly suggest that we make sure we get that because
Sure.
the liability is unreal and we've all seen structural issues, we've all seen what happened and that is not something we want for our district. So anyway.
Sure. No, I think that's.
And visual, typically they do some core drilling, they do a bunch of different things to guarantee the integrity. So anyone who's gonna put their name on it or their signature or their stamp on it, they're gonna look at it really, really closely.
Yeah.
So I strongly suggest we make sure we have that as a sign.
Okay. No, thank you. We'll make sure that we receive that. I know we had the report out, and so we'll let them get the written report as well.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? No? Thank you very much. All right. I appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay, moving on to opportunity for public comment. Quick reminder, the board encourages public expression at board meetings. Speakers may comment on matters related to any agenda item. The board will not permit in public session discussion involving individual district personnel or students. Persons wishing to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should present their comments and/or concerns to the superintendent during regular business hours. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Personal attacks, obscene language, libelous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. Total allocated time allowed for public comment is 30 minutes with the option to extend by vote. There is 3 to 5 minutes allotment per speaker. We offer a comment period at the beginning of regular meetings and a second period at the end, but generally we do not receive comments at special meetings. We do ask speakers to identify themselves by name and address prior to speaking. Anyone wishing to speak, please.
Okay, Jeff Goldberger, 1394 Coke Road, Skaneateles, New York. Okay. In the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine clinical trials for children 12 to 15 years old, they had 1,131 children receive the vaccine and 1,129 children in the placebo group. Placebo is a shot designed to have no effect and serve as a baseline. Maddie D. Garay was a healthy 12-year-old girl who volunteered for the clinical trial. Her reaction after the second dose of the vaccine was that she developed severe abdominal and chest pains. Quote, "It feels like my heart is being ripped out through my neck." She developed nausea, vomiting, erratic blood pressure and heart rate, memory loss, and an inability to hold up her head. She is now paralyzed from the waist down and will likely be for the rest of her life. The FDA used these results to approve the vaccine for emergency use authorization. For the FDA to approve a drug or vaccine for emergency use authorization, the benefits must outweigh the risks. Per the CDC webpage, there have been 498 deaths in the U.S. for individuals between 5 and 18 years old. There are around 60 million children in the U.S. between 5 and 18 years old. This means there's around an 8 in a million chance of a child between 5 and 18 years old dying from COVID-19. In the clinical trials, Maddie D. Gray was 1 out of 1,131 people who took the vaccine. Based on my assessment of the clinical trial results, I disagree with the FDA. The benefits clearly do not outweigh the risks of, and an additional investigation is needed. What about the ability of the COVID-19 vaccine to prevent infections from the virus and to reduce its spread? Gibraltar is fully vaccinated. Let me repeat that. Gibraltar is 100% vaccinated and recently put in place additional restrictions based on an increase in COVID cases. Gibraltar's health minister, Samantha Sacramento, said, quote, "The drastic increase in the number of people testing positive for COVID-19 in recent days is a stark reminder that the virus is still very prevalent in our community and that it is the responsibility of us all to take every reasonable precaution to protect ourselves and our loved ones." In September, there was a wave of COVID cases in the Middle East. Israel had 60% of the people vaccinated. The highest number of active cases reached 10%. Palestine had 17% of the people vaccinated. The highest number of active cases reached 6%. In Africa, 3% of the total population is vaccinated. The top 3 nations with the most cases are: third, Tunisia, with 13% vaccinated; second, Morocco, 31% vaccinated; South Africa has the most cases with 35% vaccinated. The European Union has a 70% vaccination rate and is currently dealing with an increase in COVID cases. Look at the data yourself, pick your own regions to examine. Look at the charts for the vaccinated and the number of cases. My interpretation of the data is that the vaccine does not reduce the spread of the virus and definitely does not prevent infection. From a common sense perspective, while the shutdowns were in place, including New York closing all non-essential businesses, the virus is able to go from Wuhan, China, to every county in the U.S. in 2 months. It has been 2 years now, so unless someone has been significantly isolated, they most likely have already been exposed to the virus. So if someone has already been exposed to the virus and they have no reaction or only a minor reaction, the risk from the virus should be very low. Look around at the people in your community and your friends and relatives. In my neighborhood, 2 families recently got COVID-19, and both of them received the vaccine around 1 week before getting the virus. If the vaccine is not preventing people from getting and spreading the virus, and the justification for the vaccine mandate is to prevent the spread of the virus, doesn't that mean the mandate is no longer justified? The mandates are based on the idea that they stop the spread of COVID-19. We know they don't now. The data even suggests they could increase the spread. What are the school's legal options? The vaccine mandates for teachers and staff is not a law, but instead an emergency order from our county executive, Ryan McMahon. In Onondaga County, emergency orders are limited to 5 days. Making it recurring clearly violates the intent of the law. The order was also implemented years after the breakout of the virus and at a time when the number of cases was relatively low and stable, so the legislature had ample time to discuss the issue. The county executive does not have the power to bypass the legislature whenever they want and for however long they want. I personally consider the executive order to be unlawful and therefore void, and think the courts will as well, if we are challenged on not enforcing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Good.
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Michelle, 1860 Collard Road, Skaneateles. I'm curious as to what the process is, if there is any at this point, or what the plan is for determining a new football coach.
Yeah, I think that's something, so part of public comment obviously is for you to address us. It's not a back and forth dialogue. However, what I would encourage you to do is speak with Mr. Knuth when he's back in the office, set up a time to meet with him and go through the process as far as next step for the football coach.
Well, in that case, if there's a place for a public comment, I'd like to make one. You referenced it at the start of the meeting that in your executive session you were discussing the case of Sindoni against the board. I don't know where that stands, and at this point, honestly, I don't care. There's been a lot of bad blood, obviously. It's been an exhausting process for, I'm sure, for you, for a lot of the people in this town. members of the Booster Club, parents, and players as well. But it's history now. It's over, right? Sidonia is gone, the staff is gone. Mr. Kelly, you're going to be gone soon too, right? So I ask all of you, going forward, to turn the page on this with regard to a new coach. A lot of members of the Booster Club are departing, I think. So it's going to be a new group there. It's going to be the same kids in a lot of cases, and those kids deserve our best, your best, our best, everyone's best, to work together, to not have an adversarial relationship, for the communication to be open rather than the way it's been, which is frankly inexcusable on all sides. No one's hands are clean on this. I'm asking for a fresh start, and I hope that you will share that sentiment and move forward in that thought. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Good.
Sir?
Hi, Gary Bishop, 47 Lake Vista. I had athletic questions. I received an email from the athletic director, which was forwarded to all of you, I believe. It's my understanding and belief that there's a football season during which time there's a contractual arrangement with the coach, and the football season ends and the contractual arrangement ends. And this email, which didn't quite scare me, which possibly was its intent, I don't know, but the email explained, don't talk to me about any of this anymore, per the athletic director. Talk to the board or the superintendent. So traditionally at the end of the football season, for senior players, the recruitment season starts. And there are many options for recruitment. Some children are excellent with computers. They create their own highlight films. Other people risk running into a scamster, but they hire recruitment agencies to do that for them. Other schools are fortunate enough to have coaches who assist the children doing this. They put together a highlight film. The coaches call college coaches and prep school coaches that they know. They personally discuss the student strengths, weaknesses as a player, and so on. In this district, we had a coach that did this every year after the football season was over, after his contractual relationship had ended. As part of the way of doing that, he utilized an electronic site which takes highlight films. Membership in the highlight site, as described by the athletic director, is school property. But for many years, after the contractual period ended, the coach retained access to the site. And he didn't use that to violate personal information or identity, which is an obscure provision of New York State law, which was used to delete the access of previous players from the website. I can't see how any of them were violating personal identity. Many previous players used the website to look at film and talk to the current players and coaches. But in the current athletic department, one of the first acts the athletic director did was to delete those previous players. This is one of the few districts in the state where the athletic director, who is not a football coach, is the administrator on this website. But different things happen in different places, so that's neither here nor there. But in any event, we have a precedent in this district where after the contractual period is over, the coach has retained access to this school property, basically for the purpose of helping those seniors who need help with recruitment. So I never said anything to the effect of, my student is denied access to the site. He's not. But the coach who has been willing, with no extra cost or fee to the school or the student or the family, to help the student, is now deleted from the site. So the suggestion was made, well, you know, you can hire someone else to do the film, you can hire a recruiter, you can share your grandson's access with the site. So I don't know what that means. Am I supposed to hand my username and password to the coach? That's not legal. But that's the suggestion in the athletic director's comments to me. The athletic director kind of doubled down on his denial of some stuff I brought up here in June, some stuff that I was very upset over, and which none of you had the decency to say, hey, we're sorry that stuff happened. And the coach, the athletic director, I think, doubled down because that's who he is.
Gary, there's a fine line here between public comment and you focusing on an individual district personnel. The individual you're speaking with reports directly to the superintendent of the district, Eric Knuth. As mentioned in that email and as you referenced, your next step is to go to Eric Knuth, have a discussion with him about the particular matter in hopes that he can address it. If he cannot, you're certainly welcome to go to the board at that point. I would encourage you to do so.
It's a
If you want to keep
time-sensitive
going with your
matter.
comment,
It's a time-sensitive
no
matter.
specific district personnel.
It's a time-sensitive matter in the recruitment season, waiting for him to come back from his surgery. I'm sorry he had an injury and needed that. Basically, the bottom line point here is there's a precedent where the coach was not under contract and had access to the site, which helped students. This year, the precedent has been reversed. The coach has been removed from the equation. I just found it really distasteful that was done this year.
I can appreciate that. I'm sure if there's something that needs to be done to get access to that, to anybody that we need to, I'm sure there's a way to do that.
Right. The method that was recommended is illegal. The athletic director in that email that you saw said share your login info with the coach. That's illegal. Keeping the coach on the website for a month.
Follow up via email, and we're happy to look into it further. Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on, item F and G, I will combine together approval of minutes on November 2nd and approval of the ABF meeting minutes from November 15th. Motion for approval on those.
So, second?
First from Danielle, second from Amanda. Thank you. Any discussion? Questions, clarifications, corrections? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. New business under I will group 6A through D together. You bear with me for just a few minutes. I'll read through them. Oh, I'm sorry, Connor. I didn't want to go over you, so I'll back up and hand it over to Connor for his school business manager report.
Thank you. Usually a big chunk of mine deals with capital project updates and Tutoring construction. I think did a pretty good job in peeling back the curtain and to what's going on and why and how we're moving through this process. So if anybody has any questions, I'm willing to answer them now, or feel free to email. As always, I said in previous meetings, if people want tours to come and see the spaces, obviously more than willing to do that as well, so feel free to email me as well. So if there's no other questions, just a couple of updates here. Just a quick budget update. Obviously, we're always forecasting and working on.
Connor, one
Yep.
quick, I should have probably asked the Turner guys, and I'll ask you, and if you don't have the answer, that's okay, but with the next capital project coming, and the current state of the world with COVID and construction and material delays, are we already ordering things well in advance of when we anticipate needing to order them, even if it's by 9 months? Assuming that there's going to be additional delays, or are they at least starting to look at that so that we are not getting further behind?
So we consistently have design meetings for project 23, 24 on various areas. One of the problems here is about ordering things is these are put into the bids, and the bids can't be moved forward until we know who's awarded that.
Okay.
But in some terms of technology, we've looked into projectors that have taken a while, that we can order those in-house
Okay.
on our own and have those in-house. So when contractors don't need to include those in those bids, we would already have them. So we're being proactive in that sense, but again, there's only so much we can do before bids are awarded.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you, sorry.
Yep. First update was just a budget update. Like I said, we're always forecasting, always working on year-to-year budgets and looking at that. But it's starting to ramp up for next year's budget. So a lot of BOCES initial service requests are rolling in. We're working with administrators on vetting those. The budget for this year is about 10% for BOCES of our budget, which is about almost $3.6 million. So there's a lot of services there that need to be vetted through and gone over, see what services are obsolete right now, see what services we might need to add. So we're working diligently with administrators on working through that. And again, it's $3.6 million, so a decent chunk of our budget that we spend on that. We do get a very good kickback on that next year at BOCES Aid. but nevertheless, we need to look at services we're definitely not using, and rather than just paying for and not utilizing. We're in constant talks with fiscal advisors. As you can see through the construction project, these things are still moving. We can't officially bond until we have a final dollar amount on expenses for these projects. So we were initially going to bond in June of 2022, but we will not be doing that. We will be bonding in June of 23. That has no effect on aid flow, local share, or nothing. It just pushes out the debt schedule just a little one more year. So again, it has nothing on local share or aid flow. So just want to make that clear. The next thing, so for next meeting, I should have preliminary numbers. As we report out, and as the community has seen, the state requires us to report in 3 parts, which is administrative, capital, and program parts of the budget. So by next meeting, I should have preliminary review number 1 for the administrative and capital part of the budget. But program, we're still evaluating needs for next year, whether it's staffing-wise, service-wise, materials and supplies-wise. So the program part is going to take a little bit longer. That will probably be the February meeting. We'll give that first update. But we should have preliminary numbers for administrative and capital components of the budget in early January. And any questions on budget?
There'll be many coming forward, I'm sure.
And I just wanted to give a quick update on Parent Square. As ABF knows, the people who are included in that, we rolled out a community group, which is an opt-in service or opt-in platform for community members to receive flows of information from the district who might not have students in the district. So we're trying to touch all stakeholders. We think this is a great start of a long overdue process to be more transparent and flow information out there. I'm working with the library. We've done this before in our prior to our budget workshops back in March of 2021. We used them to push out and publicize that we're having these meetings. We got some additional people to come in because they saw that. So we'll try to post. We're going to try to get on their monthly email blast. I think it's about 1,400 emails that they have that will blast us out to say, here, sign up, sign up, sign up. We just need to keep saying it, so, and blast it home to people. We're going to try and put posters up around our buildings so people can see it rather than just talk about it. So we're trying to be very proactive with that. But again, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make them drink. So it's an opt-in service. So if you don't want it, you don't need to have it. But if you do want it, it's there. So that's all I have.
Great, kudos. I know that's an effort that we've been pushing for way too long, to be honest, in the fact that we're able to now have a system to leverage for exactly those purposes, I think will help with that whole communication and transparency as well. So appreciate your efforts behind the scenes on that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, back to new business. A, sorry Connor for skipping over you. Again, we'll combine A, B, C, and D. Quite a bit here. First of all, the approval of the retirement of Kathy Sparrow, account clerk 1. Congratulations to her. Approval of unpaid leave for Ann Hughes, teacher assistant, and unpaid leave for Pam Anastasio, teacher. As well as the formal resignation of myself from this position effective December 20th.
No.
Thank you. Item B is approve the probationary appointment of Dwight Lewis, groundskeeper. Job rate appointment of Alan Stevens, CWI. The probationary appointment of Patrick McGuane, groundskeeper. Job rate appointment of Catherine Lawrence, school nurse. Apologies if I butcher any of these names, it's not intentional. And for these number of individuals, it's ultimately appointment for substitute teacher assistant, substitute teacher aide, and tutor, and which would apply to Rebecca Mindick. Thomas Norris, Patricia Barkley, Christy Hill, Bailey Hurd, Jack Wortley, Madeline Markowitz. And then the approval of a temporary appointment of Mary Texera, half-art teacher, to the additional position of .5 food teacher. And then also the approval of the extended provisional appointment of Carl Foll, local area network technical support specialist, as well as the adjusted appointments of the extracurricular class club advisors, which you all have access to as well. And then D is the adjusted salary for Deborah Stott Moody, teacher assistant. So a motion for approval of all of those items.
So moved.
I'll take first by Tom and second by Danielle. Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, so the leave for Cam Anastasia isn't as simple as it seems as an unpaid day. She alludes to it in her letter about it being the day before vacation. Past practice is that we don't allow that. The day before and after vacations typically are not allowed. There's a lot of perks to working for a school, but one of them is that you don't get vacation time, and therefore, you pay a lot more for airfare, that type of thing. So what happens sometimes is people request the day so that they might get a cheaper flight, and honestly, she doesn't say in there why she wants the day. I guess my point is, I honestly don't have an issue with it, but the issue's a lot bigger than just requesting an unpaid day off. I know past practices that we don't allow it before or after vacation.
And, and I would just say, certainly I think there is exigent circumstances, that probably, there's a reasonable basis for it. And, certain that's a circumstance that applies in this particular instance.
But we don't know what that circumstance is.
I think so.
I guess that's what
Point
I wish
taken.
Eric were here, I don't.
There is an awareness that there is a circumstance, but point taken, and certainly something we can have Eric address at a future period.
Okay.
Is that something that you need to strike from?
What do you mean?
This is something that you don't want to move forward on?
Personally, I probably will not. Just, again, I don't have a strong opinion on it either way. It's just if we open up Pandora's box, that's my concern. The concern is typically if you get 5 teachers the day before vacation, you can't get subs for those people. On the flip side of that, I have almost a problem with making her take it unpaid, if indeed, because I know in other circumstances we allow people to take days off that don't fall under sick time or necessarily they might not have any personal days left. And so if we were to grant it, personally I would say give it to her paid. And I'm all about fairness, and we haven't allowed people in the past. And like I said, she definitely alludes to it in her letter, so I think even she knows that, she's asking for a special request.
Understandable. Any other discussion? Questions, concerns?
I think just kind of tagging on, for me, it becomes if the teacher develops a particular pattern, then, Brett wants to address it, but she's acknowledging it in her letter, that there's no, Mr. Knuth is recommending it for, I think we move forward, and then we say collectively as a board, if a pattern is developed, then it may lend itself to further discussion.
But what if it's a pattern with 5 other teachers and not her? That's, I think, the danger.
Precedent.
Yes.
It is.
We just have to, I agree, we have to be very careful.
Right. I'm all about, I don't have a strong opinion, I'm actually okay with it.
I'm not sure it's an opinion thing.
Yeah,
I
right.
think for what's in front of us right now, policy is the thing that this board is in charge of. So we need to be cognizant about what's the policy and that we're consistent, that we're careful. So my comment would be, let's be careful about approving this as it stands right now, and let's get some.
I think that, look, I can appreciate that. I think that Eric is in the position to put a recommendation on here, not that we approve it based on ignorance. I think that there's an awareness in running a school district that there certainly are certain times and circumstances where something of this nature is okay. And I think that's a judgment that he makes when he puts forth a recommendation of this sort, and it's on us from a board perspective. And it's okay for us to agree to disagree on occasion, and that's okay as well. And I think that it's something, to your point, absolutely, that we look forward to hearing from him in the future as far as his approach with this and his thought process, so that you're absolutely clear on when something like this is here, what the thought process is, and maybe some examples of when he is okay with such a recommendation, knowing, to your point, that it's kind of a big deal when you do something like this in relation to a particular break. So
Right,
I
I mean,
think-
there's another unpaid request, and it's fine, because
Yeah.
it's, just a random, any day, that's a different circumstance, that's all.
We can vote on that, pull that one out.
yeah, we can
Vote on that as well.
pull that out separately and vote
Is that
separately if we
Gonna
need
be an
to.
issue for her, though, do you know? I mean, I was gonna ask her to be pulled, but I don't wanna create a
I don't-
circumstance for her.
I don't know that we
She
need to,
decides
we can still vote and we can just separate it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any issues with separating that out, Tom? Nope. Okay, so we'll, everything that I just went through, we'll house the Pam and Anastasia, we'll vote on that separately. So excluding that, I'll take a motion for approval.
So moved.
First from Amanda, second from Danielle, thank you. Any more discussion?
Yeah, just
Anything
looking
outside of
to
Pam?
Carrie's point with the other request for the lead, that was also the day between,
Oh, what's that?
it's a 4-day weekend. So, I mean, you look at it, and this is after the fact as well, so this is from November 5th. The day off is November 12th, and November 11th was Veterans Day. So, same premise. That is, the question is, why is this one added after the fact compared to the one that is being asked for in, prior to the day being requested?
We just gotta be consistent.
I'll just kind of piggyback kind of on what Mike said. I'll openly say that I don't know the reason why she's taking it, but I know that it has been done in the past, and the word that kind of floats, or the saying that kind of floats around is lifetime event. If it's a lifetime event, we do allow it. I would assume that Eric has taken that into account, but again, I don't know the reason, but would assume that he would do it.
For purposes of the vote, do we feel like they are obviously related, so therefore we should address both of those separately?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so we will take out the unpaid leave for Ann Hughes as well as the unpaid leave for Pam Anastasio, but everything else remains. So I will ask for a motion for approval on those, excluding those two that I just noted.
So moved.
Second.
First from Tom, second from Danielle, thank you. Any additional discussion, questions, concerns? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And now we'll revisit the votes of take a motion for approval of the unpaid leave for Ann Hughes, teacher assistant, as well as the unpaid leave for Pam Anastasio, teacher. First by Tom,
Second.
second by Amanda, thank you. Any discussion in addition to maybe what we've already discussed? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I think I'm gonna recuse just because I need more information.
Okay.
So
Okay, so motion passes with 2 recusals, Gary and Carrie, thank you very much. And moving on to, let's see, 6E, teacher's contract MOAs. So I'll take a motion to approve the MOAs for the Skinny Alice Teachers Association. First from Danielle.
Second.
Second from Amanda, thank you. Any discussion, maybe quick background on this, Connor?
I don't know if Greg wants to come up and just talk about the tutoring and as well as The supervision, just the MOAs.
For the substitute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one for tutoring, we've been stuck with a price of I think it was $25 for a very, very long time. We've been struggling to gain tutors to help our students in different aspects. So we shopped around, seeing other school districts where they are, and we're right in that range that we're proposing. We feel that with this now, we will be able to get more of our own teachers with our own students with this rate, and so that's why we proposed this one. So we'll be at a little bit more of a level playing field, and again, just to get our tutors that we need for our students. That's why we'll propose that increase. The other piece is lack of substitutes. There's been times when we've been just struggling that we're not alone. It's all across the county. So one of the models out there is that if we are in a situation where we actually have nobody, no certified substitute teachers to come in here and help our students, we could have volunteers, our own staff. And so during their planning periods, they could say, okay, you go to the front desk, period 3, if you need me, I'm available, because I'll use my planning period for that. We don't see this as an everyday or ever really happening, and we don't really want this to happen, but I don't want to be put in a situation in K-12, all our buildings, that we don't have anybody in front of our students. And so this gives us the opportunity to have one of our own to be in front of our students if we're ever in a situation where we have no substitutes. So it's really an emergency plan to have them ready to go if we do need it. So those are the two reasons for the MOAs tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, other clarifications on that?
With the MOA for the Spanish teachers,
Yes.
how
So
often, we have that many students taking Spanish and we need to pick up extra periods?
So we don't have a teacher. So we went out, currently we have a long-term sub in, and this person is now going to be leaving us. She only signed up until the end of our Christmas break. So at that point, we went out, we advertised for 3 weeks in the Syracuse paper, the Auburn paper, we hit Rochester. We went online, our own network, called the school district, see who's available, retirees. One person applied. I contacted that person, and her schedule just did not meet our schedule. She couldn't make it happen. So therefore, we had to be really creative to figure out our own schedule. So therefore, we did develop, we have our own teachers in the department ready to go and teach the rest of the classes.
So they're absorbing the position.
Correct. Yeah.
So they're absorbing, how many class sessions are they picking, just one class a day?
So they'll be picking up, so right now, contractually, you have to have 6. And so now they're gonna pick up 1 additional.
All right, so it picks up the other 4 sections.
So it was 3 foods,
Okay.
and it was 3 Spanish.
So that's
So we
what
broke
Ms.
it up.
Texera was the.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That's why I didn't get the connection.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Language part, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. F and G, I will combine together. 6F is the approval for the SCF grant for $8,700 for the middle school peaceful schools program, and the approval for the SCF grant of $4,426.35 for the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. And then G is the approval for the disposal of the items that we have a list up here. I'll take a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
First from Carrie, second from Danielle. Thank you. Any questions, concerns, discussion?
Just usual thanks to SCF. Thanks
Absolutely.
for supporting a cool, for those of you, I don't know if you guys see the board docs, but just for the people in the room, the SCF thing is a data and analytics conference at MIT designed to collaborate and share how data is used to innovate. Sessions are run by C-level employees of sports broadcasting networks. It has a math focus, not an analytics focus. So that's probably pretty cool to a lot of our students. So,
Everybody can see it now.
oh, they can? Okay, well, they don't have to.
In addition,
Okay,
Just so they know, just so they know.
in addition to the Peaceful Schools program.
Yeah, I was just reading that. So thanks for both of those. Yeah, awesome.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. H, approval for, I'll do H, I, and J together. Approval of the audited financial states for the 2020-2021 school year, as well as the corrective action plan for the 2020-2021 financial audit, and the extra classroom audit as attached as well. So motion for approval for those. First by Tom,
Second.
second from Dan. Thank you. Any discussion?
It kind of with the corrective action plan, just reading through those are pretty generic type statements. that
Yeah.
Very minor in nature, just try to cover those issues with them, and get the proper training for the, especially the ECA accounts, with those student advisors.
Yep, and technically, since in the actual audits, we didn't have any technical findings, but we had comments, and we like to at least act on those comments. So we technically didn't even have to do one, but we wanted to do that to show that we acknowledge it and want to actually get better, so.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, thank you. Okay, the financial reports, motion for approval of the financial reports of October 2021. First from Danielle. Second from Gary, thank you. Any discussion? I'll ask Connor, anything out of the ordinary?
For the last time,
You'll miss it.
status quo.
And not that, for clarification, not that they don't get reviewed, but there's a significant number of line items, so certainly you look for anything that jumps out, but having some form of attestation in a public forum is always a good thing.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes, thank you. The 6L, motion for approval of the CSE, CPSE 504 reports.
So moved. Second?
First from Amanda, second from Carrie. Thank you. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Gary, Danielle, and Tom. Thanks to each of you for volunteering, especially that week. Okay, and now I will, for obvious reasons, discussing the filling of my vacancy here in the near term. I'll hand it to Mr. Lambden to facilitate the conversation, and I will politely step back.
Thanks, Mike. So first of all, I'd like to open by thanking you for your board service. Mike, I'm sure the entire board echoes our appreciation for your work here. No time is easy to serve on a board of education, but definitely these times are exceptional. And you have provided a level of leadership to the board that I just don't think we could have found elsewhere. So I want to say thank you for your time. I want to wish you well for where you're going on with your opportunity now. I hate to see you leaving the school district, but at the same time, people move on, and we have lives, and I'm happy for the direction that your life is going along with your family.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So with that, Mike is now going to be leaving his board seat open as of the 20th of December. So we have him for a few more days anyway. So the question before the board is how best to fill the board seat. So at this point, we would be hard pressed to have a special election. There would be time to, that's required to advertise an election, for example, the logistics of carrying it off. We decided actually when Gary Gerst had moved on that we were somewhat pressed for an election at that point. It hasn't gotten any better here in the last couple months now. We're even closer to the May date. So this would be a seat that would be filled from whenever we could fill it until the next school election, which would be May. So that's something for people to be aware of. Our desire is to fill the seat. So that also then leads us to the idea of appointing someone to the seat. So I wanted to put those two items before the board and have board members comment on how you see those approaches. I've somewhat skewed the discussion by telling you what I think first. I don't normally do that, but if you feel differently, as always, please speak up.
All right, I'll go first. I think the idea of having an election would be great, but the reality is probably absurd based on what you've stated, which is the required time period of advertising and making sure that any viable candidate or interested candidate can do all those required steps that are required with the signatures and all that, and the waiting periods between all that. And so if the desire is to have a board that can keep doing its job and keep moving forward, I would love to say let's have an election. I don't think it's feasible or sensible or reasonable because the timeline just does not work with a seat that only goes till May. So it's not, it is what it is in that part. We can't control the calendar, so I think I would agree that filling the seat is probably our best course of action at this point. That's my,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we have two great people on our board who are here from that same past practice of the board appointing an interested community member. We are aware of a board of several interested community members, being that, this became public information that Mike would unfortunately be leaving us. And, I think it's worked out pretty well in the past. So that would be my recommendation.
I agree, we can consider any interested applicants we have for the position as we did with Mr. Campbell when he joined us. And as Amanda said, that has been past practice the last couple of vacancies we've had. To Danielle's point, it is a short-term appointment. By the time this is done, maybe a 4 or 5 month stay on the board, then re-election in May. That process starts kind of when they have to submit for the May election. A new person running for the board, when they have to submit is March, I think, time frame. So the process is going to be very short-lived for whoever is appointed to this position. They're going to start the election process in March. So
for the new terms,
For the new
for
term.
the terms that are
Yes.
expiring,
Yeah.
right?
And that's if they want to run again.
If they want
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. So I think at this point, we've gotten input from everyone. So probably the next steps would be for me to make some phone calls to an interested individual and see if we can have that person be available for potential appointment on the 4th of January. So I will go ahead with the approval of the board to do that as board VP. I would also say, the next question arises is, Mike is our board president, I'm a board vice president. We do not have a succession plan that automatically moves the vice president into the presidency. So I would be willing to serve as president. However, I also will not fight anyone else. If one of you would like to be board president, and I would just offer that if someone has a compelling desire to do that job, that would be certainly something I would be fully supportive and would transition you over to do that effectively for the district. So keep that option open also as a possibility. I don't know how exactly we proceed on that either, because we don't have a clear succession plan, but we can figure that out through calls that you can make to me to let me know if you're interested, if you indeed are interested. So I'll put that out there for people to.
And is the process that at the January meeting, we will, because Mike won't be here at that point, we could nominate you to be the president and take the vote at it? Does that take place at the January meeting? Does
So
that
I think
work?
what we probably want to do is, assuming that we have a new board member candidate that we can put before the board on the January 4th meeting, we would probably vote to either approve or not approve that board candidate, seat the board candidate, swear the board candidate in with the oath of office, and then have the full board vote on the president to represent the board for matters of formality where signatures are required, for example, in financial documents, that sort of thing, which is most of what the board president does, as well as moderate the meeting as Mike has done so effectively during his tenure as board president. So the new board member, swear him in, election of the board president, swear the board president in. And yeah, and if it was me sworn in as board president, then we would end up having a board vice president vote also, and then swear that person in. Everything clear as mud? Okay, very good. All right, Mike, I'll turn the meeting back over to you at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And moving on, a couple of announcements, just the upcoming meetings, as Tom mentioned, January 4th, and then the following meeting is February 1st. So we look forward to seeing smiling faces via video, potentially. Second opportunity for public comment. Any additional comments? Ma'am, please.
A comment on the agenda item E that you just voted on. It said that there would be an attachment, but there was nothing there. So what did you vote on?
That's the MOA.
That's what Doug spoke to.
The MOA, that's what Greg just came up and discussed? And the attachments are in board docs. Are those confidential, only available to the board members?
They're administrative.
They are administrative. So the actual agreements themselves, although we have access through board docs, it's not accessible to the public. If you have further questions on that, then certainly you can you can certainly sit down with one of the administrators and have that discussion. I think Greg gave a great overview as far as the general concept of it.
Second question, financial statements. In table 2, there's, under expenses, there's instruction, line for instruction. And it went up by 10% from year to year. It's about $2.5 million. What made up that, what is the result of that increase? What caused that $2.5 million increase in instruction year over year?
So the point of public comment, as I mentioned earlier, is not a back and forth. We appreciate the question. It's a very, very valid question. I'm sure Connor's happy at any time to address those conversations with you. If maybe you want to wait till after he's happy to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Sir?
Rob Bennett, 108 Orchard Road. First, Mike, thanks for everything. Really appreciate it. Second thing about filling the next board slot. As you are all well aware, the Auburn Citizen editorial page, editorial board wrote an article about how they believe that this process should go. And at the very least, if you are not having an election and allowing it to be determined by the public and you are appointing a candidate, at the very least, you should put those candidates out to the general public for public comment before making the decision. Great choice with Gary, absolutely fantastic. But again, this is twice now in a very short period of time after a very, very contentious election. And I just hope, again, that you guys will not do what you can do, but you'll do what's right. Please take a look, if you haven't already, at what the editorial board is saying. Take a look at the past practices, see what's transpired here over the last couple of years, and again, I ask you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Any other comments? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Final adjournment. Again, I gave a little bit of a candid speech the last one. I think that it's been a pleasure for 4 years now. I think we're in a better place now than we were 4 years ago. I think we've been through some ups and downs. It's not going to subside. That's something that you expect in a district. I think the one thing, even in some of the situations we've been in, is I've yet to run into somebody that's here for the wrong reason. That meaning that they're not here in the best interest of the students. And sometimes you don't see eye to eye on exactly what that translates into. But I think in your heart, if that's what you want, then we're here for the same reason. And I look forward to seeing that progress in the future. As I said, I think the day that I got here, or I think the initial time that I ran, is I think Skanelis has all the right pieces It's just a matter of having a leader in the position to steer the ship in the right direction, in giving that individual enough adequate support to keep them here and allow them to steer the ship, as well as bring those pieces of the puzzle together. And I think this community is unbelievably supportive, great staff, great, everything about it is great. It's just, don't lose sight of letting somebody steer the ship and keep the pieces together, because we're very fortunate to have what we have here. And, some outspoken voices are a good thing as well. So we appreciate that. I appreciate serving with each of you, and I wish you the best in filling the seat and as you move forward. So thank you very much, and with that, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
First from Carrie, second from Amanda. Thank you. Any discussion, last minute comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.